shows you I don't have a life, doesn't it? Being taped on the 8th day of March 2005 in the home of the estate of
Estate, better word.
Yeah. Sir, do we have your permission to videotape this?
Yes, you do.
Sir, for the record, could you please state your full name?
William J. Fiorentino.
And the J stands for?
Joseph.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before you began your career at Redstone Arsenal.
I was born in the Bronx of immigrant Italian parents, lived in an Italian neighborhood. Unlike today's environment, my brother and my sister and I were not allowed to speak Italian, so we were purely English speaking in the house. Went to a public school for the first 8th grades, transferred then to a Catholic high school, and then ultimately went into Fordham University, which was a Jesuit college in the Bronx.
What year was that?
I graduated in 56, so I went in 52. 52 and graduated in 56. Went to work at the Brooklyn Navy Yard as a physicist, because my major was physics, for just a couple of months, at which point I came onto active duty. Started out with my basic branch then was air defense artillery. So I went to Fort Bliss, did my basic course there. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question anymore.
Okay.
The question was up until the time I came in the Army.
Till Redstone.
Oh, till Redstone? Oh, okay. Well, I've got 2 more years to go.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Rocking and rolling.
I was right on a roll here.
You're on a roll, and
Okay.
now we're going to have to make an edit. Mike, go ahead and make a note of that.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about your edit. I graduated, then went to Air Defense Artillery Basic School at Fort Bliss. Went on site with Nike Ajax at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane, Washington. Spent 2 years there, at which point I reverted to my basic branch, which was ordnance. Went through a refresher course at Aberdeen to kind of green me up for ordnance. And at that point it was 1958, and I headed for Redstone Arsenal for the first of many assignments at Redstone Arsenal.
Do you know the one in 58?
September of 58.
Okay. So, question 2 is, when did you begin your career at Redstone? You just answered that.
September of 58.
So what was your position, and what was your position when you first came to Redstone, and what other positions did you hold at Redstone?
Okay, well, before I answer your question, I have to tell you one of my fondest memories is arriving in Huntsville.
Oh, please.
A friend of mine, by the way, who is a Fordham grad and a classmate of mine and also retired here in Madison, Mike Gately, we drove down each in our own car from Aberdeen, and we got in relatively late one evening. As we came down what is now North Memorial Parkway, we passed this big billboard on the west side of the road which said, "Welcome to Huntsville, Alabama, watercress capital of the USA." I'm going to come back to that arrival night in just a second. But the next time I came to Redstone, which was, I think, 64, came down Memorial Parkway, and there's the billboard, but now it says, "Welcome to Huntsville, Alabama, space capital of the universe." I thought, my gosh, we've moved along here in Huntsville, haven't we? And I've only been gone a few years. Anyway, Mike and I arrived late one night in September of 58. We don't know what we're doing, of course, and so we check at the gate guard, and we ask for the duty officer, who was down in the old post headquarters on South Post. Remember that big old 7101, that big old building. So we pop in there, and where's the duty officer? Well, the duty officer is playing poker with about 4 other guys, and they're sitting in this cigar smoke-filled room. And I don't know who he was. I don't remember, never knew him, I guess. But just rough as a cob, the old duty officer was. And what do you want? I said, well, we're just arriving for duty, and we'd like some space in the BOQ to spend the night. And he turns to one of the people and says, "Put him in the guardhouse." I'm thinking, wait a minute. We haven't done anything wrong. We're reporting in. Well, it turns out guardhouse is Southern for Goddard House. And so they put us in the Goddard House, which turned out to be very nice quarters, thank you. But that was my first day at Redstone Arsenal. Anyway, thought I ought to share that with you. So
So as you're driving down what used to be what it was, it turns into Memorial Parkway. So it was late at night when you saw it. Well,
relatively late, yeah, it's probably around 9 o'clock or so.
So you didn't really see much of the city.
Oh, didn't see, no.
And
no.
nothing of the post. 'Cause
No,
it was dark.
no. We saw the gatehouse and the post headquarters and the guardhouse, and that's about all we saw. Yeah. But we did get a sense of the size of the post in terms of driving from this end down to South Post.
Pretty big.
That was impressive, yeah. Nothing like the installations we had been accustomed to in our short careers.
So you guys have a good night's sleep in the Goddard House, and then, so what was your first position?
Okay, well, Mike and I were both assigned to a thing called OIT, which stood for Ordnance Indoctrination Tour. And this was a program, we were in the first class of it. This was a program where the Ordnance Corps took, in our case, 13 officers of the captain and lieutenant rank, either kept them here, in the case of Henry McGill, who was already here. Hank stayed here. The rest of us came in, and our duty was to go to school at the Extension Center of the University of Alabama. There wasn't a University of Alabama at that, well, there was, but it was in Tuscaloosa. But we had an Extension Center here, which was in the old Butler High School, which was, there's a high school there now, but it's no longer Butler.
Stone Middle School.
I don't know, whatever it is. It's on the intersection of Wall Triana and Governor's Drive. Is that Stone?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And our job was, we went to school 4 nights a week because they didn't have Friday night classes. And we took a full load, working on a master's degree for engineering, particularly aerospace engineering. And then usually once a week, sometimes twice a week during the day, they would have a program for us on the Arsenal, and we would go out and do whatever it was we did there. We spent a year doing that. We were on the quarter system, so we did 4 full quarters of that. And then the next year we went to Tuscaloosa and matriculated and took our degrees, then came back to Redstone for our utilization tour. So the first 2 years of my assignment at Redstone, I was on the installation about twice a week, and mostly we just hit the books and got our master's degrees.
Who were some of the, you mentioned Hank McGill, you remember?
Hank was a classmate. Bob Hawk, who went on to become a brigadier, was a classmate. Jerry North was a classmate. Jerry got out as a captain. He might have, I believe he was a captain when he resigned from the Army. Joined the State Department, went on to become an ambassador to one of the smaller African nations. So we have Ambassador North. We had John Kite, Tom Sutton, Tom Brown, Bill Aldrip, who was here in Huntsville.
That's like a the Tom Brown? Pershing Tom?
No, different Tom Brown. Different Tom Brown. This was a Tom Brown who was, in the course of his career, in the Army, in the Navy, and in the Marine Corps. Excuse me, and he retired from the Air Force. Tom hit all 4 of them, did all 4 of them. And the only one of the class to go on to get his PhD, by the way. I'm missing a couple of classmates who may or may not come. Oh, Jack Wilson, who is a former MISIC guy, also retired here in Huntsville. I'm missing a couple of the guys now, and I'm gonna stop there. Can't go much further. But we were the first class of OIT. There was a second class, and then for reasons which were not clear to me, the Army dropped the program. So we only had 2 OIT classes.
Seemed like a good program.
I thought it was. They tightened it up a little. When we got to Tuscaloosa, we signed in to take a full engineering load, which we all did. But I mentioned I went to Fordham. Fordham is a Jesuit liberal arts college. I took a master's in physics, but I also took an a minor in philosophy. So we believe in liberal arts education. So when I got to Tuscaloosa, I took my engineering classes, and I also took a semester of French and a semester of Greek and Roman mythology. When the Army found out they were paying for that, there was a new rule instituted. So from now on, you can only take courses directed at your major, thank you.
So you wanted to be an enlightened young soldier.
I'm a firm believer in a broad-based education, and what the Jesuits taught me was liberal arts.
So when you were at that 58 to 60 period or whatever,
58 to 60.
do you have any Madeira stories you can tell us?
Not really. Medeiros was the commander, and I did sit in on a couple of meetings, which he chaired. But again, remember, I was in school at the time and just really didn't have any functional thing. The Medeiros stories that I know are Hank McGill Medeiros stories, but he has to tell them. I'm not allowed to do that. So,
I've heard a few.
yeah, okay. Have you talked to Henry yet?
Where is he now?
Somewhere in South Carolina, as I recall, on the coast. I've got an email address. Well, I've got a mail and an email address for you. Okay. Sure, I'd be happy to put you in contact with him. I think he'd be a valuable contribution.
So what other so you finished that 2 years, and then you went to work as a.
It was called a utilization tour, and my utilization tour was in the Nike. What came first, Nike Zeus or Nike X? Nike Zeus, I guess.
The Zeus before X, right?
Yeah, Nike Zeus project office under Glenn Crane.
Ah.
Remember Colonel Glenn Crane?
Yeah.
Okay. And I wound up in the systems analysis division working for Julian Davidson, which is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me in my whole life, other than getting married to Judith. But
Judith was the best thing to happen.
Judith was the best thing. Julian was the second best. Yeah, yeah.
I just want to clear that for the record.
Yeah. We want the record to be very, very clear on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I would have to give her a copy.
Okay. And so I worked there for 2 years, and then was assigned to Kwajalein. So I went out to Kwajalein, where I was the logistics officer.
No, what year was that?
Don't press me too hard on this stuff. Let's see, we did 58 to 60, so it must have been 62.
Wow.
Went to Kwaj.
Kwaj was pretty desolate.
Kwaj was basic Kwaj at that point, yes, thank you. And
I mean, there was nothing out there in 62.
well, I'll tell you how we made it better, or at least bigger. But one of my duties as the logistics officer was to take the tours out to observe the missile firings. And I was there for the first launch of a Nike Zeus from Kwajalein. And we had built a little stand out back behind the building, and I was the guy that took the visitors out to the stand, and we watched the launch and all that sort of thing. Very interesting, very interesting. Turned out, by the way, we learned very quickly that personal observations were totally unreliable in terms of what we thought we saw. Don't ask me what I saw anymore, sir. Go look at the data. Okay, look at the tapes. Because very quickly we found out that as witnesses we were totally unreliable. It was interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I was there when the Tsar burned. You know what the Tsar was? The Zeus acquisition radar. Very, very high-powered thing, triangular, had metal impregnated foam rubber, not foam rubber, but foam lenses to form the waves. And apparently we pumped a little too much power through it, and the thing caught on fire one day. That was a little bit awkward.
It is interesting to note, though, I mean, you can comment on this, the Zeus, and then this X program was the most expensive Army program going on at the time.
Yes, I
back
believe
in
that.
1960,
Sure, yeah.
it was absorbing how much? I mean, it was a ridiculous amount of money for the time. It was like, I mean, it was just a huge high.
Biggest jump.
Yeah. But it was an immense program of significant magnitude.
Right. It was.
Yeah.
It was all brand new, cutting edge stuff.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, state-of-the-art technology every way: computers, radars, missiles, data processing, you name it. And Zeus was clearly on the edge of all of that.
Can you imagine back then if you guys would have said, let's go ahead and start manufacturing and basing these things all over the place, and and then we're gonna test it. Because that's what's happening today.
No, yeah,
They're
but,
basing it
yeah.
and setting it up, and
Mhm.
they haven't.
Well, yeah, but there is testing going on,
I understand that.
and there has been testing going on, and the tests to date that have failed, to me, are not indicative, and by the way, I don't know what I'm talking about, but the little I read in the paper, they're not indicative of fundamental system failures. There's stuff goes wrong,
I know, but I'm saying
and that's
back
why you
then,
test.
before they even set up Safeguard, they made sure everything was worked out and
Oh, yes, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's my point.
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
the fundamental difference between when you were working on that stuff in the '60s and what's going on in 2005 is in the old days. They said, okay, let's make sure. It's just like with any system. You didn't start serving out the Pershing twos until you worked out the kinks to them.
Be careful. Be careful. We had a production line, and when the last R&D missile went down the production line, the next bird was the first production missile went down the line. Okay, so we had a fair amount of concurrency in there, Klaus. There was a fair amount of
But I'm
concurrency.
saying you didn't have the production missile coming off the line and then the R&D missile coming in behind it.
No, that's true.
That's my point.
That's true. All of the R&D missiles were produced, and then we started. Now, to draw, I think, a reasonable comparison between then and now, the simulations today are so much more sophisticated than they were back in those days. For instance, we did not validate the Pershing system on its flight test program. We validated the Pershing system on its simulations, and we validated the simulations with the flight test program. Okay? So, and I suspect today the simulations are even better and more comprehensive, and therefore probably, and again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I would not be surprised if there would be less flight tests conducted today on NMD to validate those simulations than we conducted on Pershing. And that was, what, 18 birds we flew on Pershing as R&D.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to screw up because you were doing well. Okay, you were in
I'm
quad.
sorry not to be doing well.
No, I messed
That's
up.
all right.
All right, you were at Quads and then you went where?
Let's see, what did I do after Kwajalein? Kwajalein, came back to the career course
Where?
at Aberdeen, which is the home of Ordnance Career Courses. From Aberdeen, and that's a 10-month course, the career course. From Aberdeen, I was assigned to Picatinny Arsenal as a PCS. I was in the Quality Assurance Directorate of Picatinny for about 4 months when the Secretary of Defense said something to Julian Davidson, and Julian said, "Oh, I can really have anybody I want?" The Secretary said yes, and I was transferred immediately to Huntsville, Alabama, to the Nike X program.
What year was that? I'm supposed to ask.
I know you're supposed to ask, but you got to remember I'm kind of old and I don't remember a lot of these numbers. All right, hold on a minute. I got to count on my face. Same way if you ask me how old you are, I am.
I wouldn't.
Don't do that. All right.
We have a record, so we know.
You know, you got me. Huh? Let's see. I was on quad 64 to 65, so that would have been 65 that came back here.
So coming back to Huntsville. Now
Right.
You're married now.
No, not yet married.
You're kidding.
Not yet married. No. Got married in January of '66. That's how come I knew it wasn't '66 when I came back. Okay.
Ah.
That's a date I remember. See, I told you the important things.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So
were you thinking at the time, oh no, back to Huntsville, or?
oh no, I was thinking, oh boy, back to Huntsville.
Really?
Yeah, I liked Huntsville from the very first time I was here.
Wow.
I was born and raised on the streets of New York in the Bronx. There's not a lot you can tell me about big cities. But once I saw a small town, I realized I didn't like big cities. I liked Huntsville. It was a friendly town. It was a small town. Very quickly, you didn't go anywhere. You didn't run into someone you knew. You didn't have to drive for hours to get wherever you wanted to go. It was a short trip. Even then, Klaus, back in '66, it was a pretty cosmopolitan town. Now, there were always the Huntsville detractors. Oh, well, there's nothing to do in Huntsville. There's no place to shop in Huntsville. I have to go to Atlanta if I want to buy a pair of trousers or a dress. I never had that problem. I always liked Huntsville. I always found there was plenty for me to do. Liked it, as I say, from the first time I was here.
And back then, the city was very active with what the Army was doing, right?
Oh, yes, yes. But really still is today.
Yeah, but on probably a more personal level back then.
Oh, on a more personal level, yeah. You know, everybody knew everybody, even at my lieutenant rank. It was just a comfortable place to be, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
How about your wife? How did she like it?
Well, let me get married.
Okay.
Henry McGill got married, and I went to Charlotte, which is where Henry got married. Met his wife's roommate. So a little while later, I went back to Charlotte and got married too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I have to
It's
remember,
small world.
stay away from Charlotte.
Stay away from Charlotte.
Stay away
Small
from
world.
Charlotte. No Charlotte. No.
But just prior to getting married, I got this note that I was being sent overseas on a classified assignment, and it was finally found out it was an accompanied tour. Don't have a clue why it was classified. They wound up sending me to Bangkok, Thailand, sending us to Bangkok. So we got married and went to Bangkok.
You guys both went to Bangkok?
Yeah. You don't want to do that, Klaus, because she had the maid and the gardener and
Oh my God.
okay, and yeah, after that it's kind of hard coming back and saying to anywhere and saying, okay, honey, it's all yours. Say, but who does for me? Well, you're an Army wife now. You do for you. But
So you came back to Redstone the next year.
that was about a year and a half. Got married and left. Went off to Thailand.
Now, can you to this day still mention why it was a classified tour in Thailand?
I don't have a clue why it ever was.
What did you do?
I went to a MAG, I'm sorry, it was not a MAG, it was a DARPA advisory group to the Royal Thai Army to help them with their R&D programs.
Interesting.
So, clearly fit my background. Now, the R&D programs were, we did a combat boot, we did a combat ration, we did a multi-purpose net.
Oh, so
Nothing that...
So this is highly classified.
Clearly it was highly classified,
So we may
yeah.
have to scrub this
You
tape
may
here
have to burn the tape, yeah, or shoot me, I'm not sure which.
Of course, we both.
But the only thing I could ever speculate, I never knew why, the only thing I could ever speculate is somehow it was a DARPA assignment and somehow the access to that information was restricted. But it never made a bit of sense to me.
Of course, Southeast Asia was becoming a hot spot.
Reasonably hot at that point, and that may have something to do with it, I don't know. But anyway, we went to Thailand, spent 2 great years there, thoroughly enjoyed it. At that point, I got alerted to go to Vietnam with the DARPA organization to do the same sort of thing. Judith elected to stay in Thailand, so she's got 3 years in country, where I only have 2. When I got off the plane, they said, no, President Nixon has just announced Vietnamization, and you're not going to DARPA, you're going into the training command. So I wound up as a logistics officer, assisting the Vietnamese Army in their training base to try to get them up to speed to where they could run their own war. Spent a year there, came back to, let's see, I guess then I came back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, where I attended the Defense Weapons Systems Management School, which was ultimately transferred to Fort Belvoir. Went through the course there and then wound up staying on for another 2 years as an instructor at the course. Very delightful tour. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Being a school teacher, I found out fit my personality. I was able to do research. I went home at 5 o'clock every evening. First and only time I've ever done that.
Other than now.
No, I don't even go away, so I can't come home now. But
That's right. I never
but
thought of that.
yeah, yeah. If you don't leave, you can't come back
You can't come home because you don't go.
because you don't
Write
go.
that
Yeah,
down, Mike.
right.
I
Another
like that.
note.
I have to put that.
You are just having pearls
Oh,
cast
this is-
before you.
oh, yeah.
This is really good stuff.
If you don't leave home, you
You can't come back.
can't come back.
Yeah. So spent a great tour there.
Except for the winters.
The winters are kind of brutal up there. The wind comes sweeping across the plain, and boy, you know it.
Yeah, 'cause it's just
It's flat. It's absolutely dead flat. But spent a couple of years there. Made lieutenant colonel while I was there, and then something happened. That's why I paused a while ago. I lost a tour. I went to. No, I didn't. No. I'm still all right.
no.
Can I have notes to look at?
No.
Please? No notes. All right, darn it. Okay.
Who was it we were interviewing who wanted to read everything? Well, Stuhlinger tried to do that, and then
We was
we were
meeting,
talking about old German rocket science.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
He
know.
wanted to read
No,
the
Ernst.
flipping thing.
Yeah.
we was meeting
Yeah.
stuff.
No. Okay. I guess from there, then I wound up going to Fort Leavenworth for the advanced. No, the career course. No. What the hell? It's Command and General Staff. Thank you. I think I'm getting old.
There you are.
God bless us. Jeez.
He's been spending too much time at Redstone Village.
We'll talk about Redstone Village in a while if you want to. God
Okay, yeah.
bless us. But yeah, I did CNGS, and then from CNGS got and by the way, that's where my wife got her first horse at Fort
That
Leavenworth.
was the beginning of the end.
That was the beginning of the future,
Oh yeah.
or the present, as the case may be. We try not to refer to it as the beginning of the end because she's really sensitive about that. But I knew from my prior schools that I was really not a good student and I wanted to do well at CNGS. And I said, Judith, look, I'm here for 10 months. I really got to hit the books. I'm going to embarrass myself career-wise. And she said, well, what am I going to do? Because at this point, she really hadn't played Army wife and didn't know how. Because we hadn't been anywhere that was really Army. So she had been riding and, in fact, fox hunting when we got married and did not do any of that for the several years till we got to Leavenworth. I said, all right, here's the deal. You can buy a horse, because Leavenworth had the hunt, which at the time was the only fox hunt on a military reservation.
Period.
I'm sorry?
Period. I mean, anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah. Yeah, there are others now, or there are some now, but at the time it was the only one. And they had a very, very nice setup there. It was really a good arrangement. So I said, look, here's the deal. More than likely, I'm going to get assigned to Washington when we finish Leavenworth. So you buy the horse, but you got to sell the horse when we're ready to leave, right? Deal. We did the ceremonial handshake, hugged and kissed. And we bought a horse by the name of Steeler. And Steeler was Steeler because his original owner had his football option picked up by the Steelers. So, and he was a big gray horse. Where's his pictures around here somewhere? Oh, up at the barn, I guess. But anyway, Steeler looked like a Steeler. He's a big old horse and a great horse. And she hunted him very, very happily. But anyway, at the end of the 10 months, orders came through. We're going to Washington to OCRD, Office Chief of Research and Development, which was a very, very good assignment for me. And Steeler came with us.
Oh, I can't believe it.
I can't either.
I'm in shock.
Like, make me know that.
Shock and awe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Steeler
Yeah,
came
shock
with
and
us.
awe.
Said, but we shook, we hugged, we kissed, we forgot. Steeler came with us. And
You're just a wuss.
yeah, well, I couldn't
Pussy
believe it.
cat.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, Steeler did come with us. And so we did 4 years in the Pentagon. About 2 years as Chief of Research and Development, and it then transferred. The Army staff got reorganized, and it became Desrata. So I did my second 2 years there, basically the same thing. But a very, very good job, very, very good experience for a boy that wanted to play in the acquisition game. You saw the inside of it. My first 2 years, I was a systems analyst. I was never a DASC, Department of Army System Coordinator, the guys that oversaw the weapons systems from the Army level. But I was the guy that worked with all of the DASCs. Did that first 2 years. Second 2 years, I was the Congressional Liaison Officer for DESRADA, which was a tremendous experience because I got to do the Hill and write testimony and that sort of thing. Interesting insight into how the government works and how the Army interfaces. I know a little something about how budgets flow and the committees and what they do and all that sort of thing. Again, a very, very useful experience for a boy that wants to be a PM because you're up there and it's handy if you know what you're doing and what they're doing. So did 4 years there, and then at the end of that 4 years, something happened. I wonder what that was.
With the horse down here?
Let's see. Yeah, as a matter of fact. No, didn't bring the horse down here. Came back here as the Inspector General. That's what it was.
You were the IG?
I was the IG, yes, indeed. For several CGs, and I was the IG before, during, and after MICOM, MIRCOM, MARADCOM, and MICOM, which was a lot of fun.
Is that where you got the gray hair from?
No, I think I got that from the Pershing program.
Okay. Wow.
Believe it. We're getting close to Pershing, but we're not there yet. So did 2 years, a little more than 2 years here as the IG, and then got selected for the Air War College, so went down to Montgomery.
Okay, so let me back up. So when you came back as the IG, so we're talking about, if you're saying it's right before MIRCOM or ADCOM, so that's got to be at least early 77 or 76?
77, I believe, was the date.
Early 77.
I believe it was
So
77,
it was
yeah.
right before the split.
Yes, it was before the split. Yeah.
So what did you think of Huntsville and Redstone when you came back at that time?
Whoa. God, remember now, with the space capital of the universe and all that stuff. Huntsville had grown physically, but what's the right word? Philosophically, emotionally, it was still the same small town Huntsville that I loved. So I hate it when they do that.
Yeah, especially my heart hates it.
Well, we've got the little predator things up there, and I don't know if it's the light reflection off the lake or what, but they don't see it, and we get a bird strike a week. Well, you can see there's a good one here. I'm sorry, I didn't see them coming.
I neither.
And usually they break their neck, by the way, and wind up. That one lived and flew off.
I'm sorry.
That's
Lost the life on that one,
yeah.
Well, at least somebody could have said incoming.
I never saw
Too
him.
fast.
I knew about it when
I
you
just
did.
looked up, bam.
Yeah, there he was, kablam, whoops, and I saw him bouncing off and going away.
So much for air defense. Okay.
Yes. Now, where were we? 1977? Oh,
Yeah.
becoming the IG.
You're IG.
Yeah.
And your impressions of Redstone and Huntsville, things have changed?
Yeah. Things had changed. The physical plant was dramatically different. The emotional plant, the philosophical plant, it was the same old Huntsville, which I liked. By the way, something else you should know about MIRCOM, MARADCOM. MIRCOM and MARADCOM were a product of AMARC, Army Material Acquisition and Review Committee. AMARC was broken up into about 6 functional areas, if I remember correctly. One of them was called Project Management. Each of the functional areas was headed by either a full colonel or a lieutenant colonel. And then there were very prestigious contractors, consultants, who were the committee. The military guys that I mentioned were the executive officers for the committee. The executive officer for the Project Management Committee, which came up at the MIRCOM or ADCOM recommendation, was a colonel by the name of Bob Moore. Okay. You didn't know that. See, that's what history's all about, guys. And the head of the executive officer of the cost committee was a guy by the name of Bill Fiorentino.
Now that I've not heard of.
That you've not heard of, okay.
Is he still alive? Can we talk
Fiorentino, I'll ask Drolay when I talk to him tonight.
Okay, let's do that, please.
There were a lot of names in there, by the way. Lou Wagner,
Yeah.
as a one-star,
Oh, you're kidding.
was the deputy military to the thing. Um, not Ben. Who was the chemist? Chemical guy went on to be a two-star. Can't remember him. Those are probably. I'm thinking there's one other name that you guys would know, but I can't call it now. But those are three names anyway that tie back into that. And so yeah, Bob was the guy, the executive officer of the committee that said, "What a great idea! Let's whack these commands in twain." Yeah, took us 2 years to say that was a dumb idea. Let's put them back together, guys. So we did that. But anyway, went off to Air War College, which was a tremendous experience. And by now, you may be noticing that I spend more time on Air Force installations than I do on Army installations.
Yes.
Okay, we got Fairchild Air Force Base, Wright-Patterson. We got Maxwell. Sir?
Is that why you wear blue now?
Yeah, it's kind of gotten into my blood. And some of it's deep blue because when I was on Kwajalein, it started out as Kwajalein Navy Station.
That's right.
Okay,
Well, as
So,
well
yeah.
should, considering all the boys who, from the Navy and Marines who died.
yes, yeah. Well, ultimately, Ed Dooley, Brigadier, wound up the commander of it. And Ed warned us before it happened. He said, "Look, we're getting ready to take over Kwajalein because we're really unhappy with the Navy. Let me tell you something. When we take it, we're going to have a whole new set of headaches because now we're responsible for the whole thing."
The whole atoll, with all the islands.
Well, the whole atoll, yeah. But the point was that the Navy used to worry about all the administration of the place. If there was no food, we went and hollered at some poor captain, Navy captain. And now all of a sudden we had to holler at Ed Dooley because it was his station. So sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for because you might get it. Anyway, did the tour at Maxwell, which was really a nice tour. I'm not sure nice was the right word. Informative tour. Got to meet a lot of the Vietnam POWs. Had a couple in the class and then some on the faculty, and they put on a series of programs for us that if you weren't there, you can't believe it, and if you haven't heard them second order, you can't believe it. Just amazing group of people. Don't know where they find the courage, how God could give somebody that much strength to do what they did. Unbelievable.
And of course, they were never welcomed home as heroes. When they initially.
No, they certainly weren't. They certainly weren't. That's a whole other story. But we did that. We got to meet the guys that flew the Blackbirds. I had one of them in my section, and they.
SR-71s.
Yeah, they put on some seminars for us in terms of what that was like. To fly an 18-hour mission and just strap yourself around that, or strap that bird around you, take off into the wild blue. So it was just an amazing experience, and I'm really glad we went there rather than to the Army War College up in Carlisle. Well, because there was so much greater exposure.
Was that the beginning of the Army trying to purpleize itself?
No.
DoD trying to go more
No,
purple?
I don't think so. We had for years and years and years done the cross-fertilization thing with people, a percentage going to the other schools. We had Navy and Air Force guys in my command and general staff school. So that had been done for years. Jointness took on a whole new meaning several years later, but that was not the start of it, not at all. While I was down at Air War College, I got a phone call saying that the PM board had met. This was my old friend Laurie Eek, for whom I worked for 4 years up in, about 2 years plus the other two in Desrata, in the Pentagon, and he called me and said, "Hey, the board has met and they've selected you to be a project manager." And I said, "Oh, great. It's the Stinger air defense missile, right?" And he said, no, it's the Pershing. I said, the what? He said, the Pershing. I said, well, geez, Colonel, the Pershing's, it's a field artillery system. I'm an air defender. Because all my experience were. He said, you're not going to decline this, are you? And I seen at a glance from the tone of his voice that I wasn't about to decline that. No, sir. It's just that I was thinking more in terms of air defense. But no, I would be happy to accept the Pershing assignment.
So the way you looked at Pershing at the time was that it was just this big old dumb rocket, went up, lobbed.
It was a field artillery
Yeah.
system, for God's
Yeah.
sake.
What could be the big deal about that?
What's a big deal about that?
Not very sexy.
No, God, no. And out of my career field, Klaus. Out of my career field. I'm an air defender. I
Right.
went to the school, for goodness sake.
Right.
I was on side with Nike Ajax. Know all about Nike, Zeus, and all of its follow-on things. Man, give me something that goes in the air. And at the time, the Stinger called it the Beam Rider at the time. Boy, that was the hot new system. I mean, boy, that was the front of the technology, and I wanted that program if they were going to make me a project manager. You're not going to decline this, are you? No, sir. I'm not going to decline this. I'd be more than happy to accept. What's a Pershing?
So you're back to Redstone.
So I'm back to Redstone.
Now, what year is this now?
Must be 80? So
Yeah,
it's about 80, I guess, yeah. Wait a minute, I know. Hold on. I can tell you. I can tell you that. No? Yeah, I can. It was late 79, because I was there for 5 years and I left in 84.
Okay.
Ah, I have documentation, you see.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But that is technically cheating. Now I'm going to reframe you. Let me see.
I'm going to do the best I can with what I got.
You
A
are-
boy uses all of his resources, Klaus.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So it's now 1980, and you guys are living. You guys moved back on post.
We were back on post at that point. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Geez, I left out a couple of assignments. I'm sorry. No, I didn't. No, I was on.
IG.
Hold on. No, I was on post. We haven't moved off yet.
So when you went down to Montgomery, did your wife stay here, or did she go?
No, she went with me. It was a PCS. I didn't know I was coming back here.
And what's
Where was Steeler this
Yeah,
whole time?
yeah. We
Steeler was with us.
Oh, okay.
Steeler's still with us. Okay.
Steeler's still with us.
We're tracking. Mike's tracking Steelers progress over there. On that sheet.
By the way, while we were in Washington, we lived out in Reston.
Oh, nice.
Nice area. And she got a second horse called Worthy Enterprise.
Sounds like a racing horse.
No, a little gray mare, actually. Looked a lot like a small Steeler. Worthy Enterprise. Have you ever wondered where the name Steel Prize Stables came from?
Well, now we know.
Steeler and Prize, her first two horses.
And now we know.
Now you know the rest of the... Well, no, you don't. Steeler's buried up there.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
Is there a stone?
No, we just know which lump is Steeler.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I assumed it was like a tombstone. We could take a picture.
No, sorry. Steeler's up there.
We should
Yeah.
work on that.
Oh.
Steeler came with us the rest of our career.
Okay, so you guys are not in Redstone. You're living where? Because you got these horses.
No, we are living on Redstone. We are on
Oh,
the
so the
Arsenal.
horses are at the stable.
And the horses are at the Saddle Club, yes.
Now, was the Saddle Club always there?
No. The Saddle Club used to be where the Reserve Center is now.
I did not know that.
Didn't know that? Okay, yeah.
Did you not, Mike?
Nope.
Yeah. Did you know as the IG, I took one look at that place and said, I'm going to close this down. It's unfit for equine habitation.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable, Klaus. It had grown topsy-turvy. It was an absolute disgrace to be on a military installation. And if I'd had an alternative as to what to do with those people and those horses, I'd have condemned the damn thing.
Really?
It was a disgrace. Anyway, so where are we? We're back now. Oh, we're back doing Pershing. Okay. I did Pershing for 5 years, got it deployed, well, got the first 2 batteries deployed. I'd been there 5 years, and I finally decided both I and the program needed relief. So,
So, wait a second, so you take over as Pershing PM, 5 years later, you got 2 battalions deployed, everything went really that smoothly with Pershing, well, that's great, we're gonna have to rewrite some history, okay.
We're gonna get to some of that.
We are?
oh,
But
okay.
ask them, what is your question?
Yeah, read ahead. Anyway,
Oh, yeah,
okay,
yeah, I hate to read ahead.
that's all right. So I finally said, hey guys, I've enjoyed this all I can stand. I need relief from this program. The program needs relief from me.
But that's a long tenure.
It was a long
Very
tenure.
unusual.
It was long, yeah. There was a guy here who did the tow program. God bless us, I'm getting old.
The father?
No,
That's,
7 years.
oh,
Hunsinger,
Yeah.
Hunsinger, Bob Hunsinger, I believe held the record for when I was aware of things. He was in the chair for 7 years. That's cruel and inhuman punishment. But anyway, so I went to the boss and I said, boss, I got to get out of here.
who's the boss?
Who was the boss then? Who was in '84? Was that Bob Moore? That was Bob Moore. I think it was Bob. And I said, hey, I got to get out of here. And he said, well, what job do you want? You name it, I'll give it to you. Oh, okay. I didn't want anything, but there was a PM job open. And the joint, what the heck was, J. Tackums was available. And I said, I really don't want to do anything but be a PM. So he gave me J. Tackums. I had J. Tackums for about 6 months. And I walked into my office one morning. It was in the wintertime. And my secretary said, you better read this. And I said, well, let me take off my hat and my coat, put my briefcase down. She said, no, I think you better read this. All right. So I read it, and it was my orders transferring me to be the deputy at BIMSCOM, effective yesterday. I was one day AWOL when I got the teletype.
How bizarre.
Yeah, well, you see, what I didn't tell you was I had been selected for brigadier in that 6-month interval. And the Army used to have, and I presume still does, has a humility program for young brigadiers.
What program?
A humility
That's what I
program.
thought you said.
Yes. Yeah. And we kick you around like you're a second lieutenant, or maybe a little less than that. And and I was literally a day AWOL when I got the message. So I was assigned as Gene Fox's deputy. Gene was the 2-star down here at the time.
Fellow New Yorker?
Fellow New Yorker. Hey, sir, I just got a teletype here that said I'm your deputy and I'm not supposed to be there till yesterday. Oh, because he didn't know about it either, apparently.
Now, did you know him from before?
Yes, oh yeah. Gene was a PM back in his early days, and yeah, we knew one another. So, and I suspect, by the way, he probably had something to do with my assignment.
Interesting guy.
He just, brilliant. My God, is he smart? Wow. And organized. I don't think I've ever met anyone as organized as Gene. I mean, boom, 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 and he knows what he's doing.
He was always impressive. He was always, he never made it out for the underlings that you ever thought that he was your friend. He was the CG. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
And he
Yeah.
acted like the CG.
He did, but
He has a picture on the front of the New York Times.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, after the Ho shot. I mean,
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was not a normal, ordinary
Yeah.
2-star.
Yeah. No, Gene was not an ordinary 2-star by any means. So anyway, he said, well, take some time, get clear of your current job, get it turned over, and come on over here as soon as you can. So I went over as soon as I could. And he said, Bill, here's the thing. I need a guy in Washington. I don't need a guy here, but I need somebody up there, because at that point we were involved with Jim Abramson and Star Wars. And by the way, I consider that a compliment, not a criticism, to call the program Star Wars. He said, you're going to Washington. I said, okay.
Should be his eyes and ears.
to be his deputy.
Right.
Yeah. So I came home and said, Judith, guess what? We're going to Washington. And Judith said, guess what? We're not going to Washington. Oh, okay. Now, in that interim, about the time that I was getting ready to leave Pershing, but before I knew I'd been picked up, I figured I was going to retire as a colonel, and we were going to retire here. So I petitioned the Arsenal for ability to move off post. They granted it. We built the house, moved in. This very house, yeah. So we were living here before I left Pershing.
Just because it's obviously not important for the historical record. How many acres of land was it with?
At the time, it was 32 acres.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And we were out in the boondocks.
But there's nothing. You have to go.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had to go miles east to find anything. Now,
Food.
yeah. Now we have the city of Huntsville west of us. What you don't know is when you drove in here today, at one point your front bumper was in the county of Madison, your back bumper was in the county of Madison, and you were sitting in the city of Huntsville. Because there's a 20-foot strip, 20-foot strip across Christopher Drive just before the bridge that opened up over 800 acres west of here to the city of Huntsville. So yeah, we were absolutely in the boonies at the time. But we were living in the house, and I said, well, Judith, we're going to Washington. It's a 2-year tour, and what do you want to do? She said, you're welcome. Anytime you want to come back, drop in, feel free. Oh, okay. So I found a lovely apartment up in Washington.
Near Crystal City?
Not in Crystal City, but near Crystal City. My office was in Crystal City. I couldn't afford Crystal City. Because I was drawing quarters allowance for here, and I couldn't draw it for there, so it was strictly out of pocket. Did that for 6 months. Got to be very, very close to Jim Abramson, who is a
very smart guy.
Very smart guy, character in his own right. Absolutely outrageous that the Congress never confirmed him for his 4th star. He was nominated, and they would not confirm him. And that was something for which I will never forgive the Congress. That's a man who earned it.
Well, listen, he was a genuine, bona fide Vietnam Air Force pilot hero. He was
astronaut trained.
I know.
You got to turn around and look where I'm pointing.
Oh, cool.
Jim gave me that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that was the old SDI patch.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they have several different names now, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, worked with him, and in about 6 months I got fired because what they did was they threw me out and they brought in the 3-star engineer. Who was that?
Wall.
John Wall. John Wall. John.
Who, of course, had to retire in disgrace because of travel.
Wasn't my fault.
Travel
Wasn't my fault.
Travel voucher fraud.
Yeah.
The guy's earning a 3-star salary, and he decides to cheat on his travel voucher and make a couple bucks.
Is that what really happened?
Yes,
I knew he got
worked
crosswise with something.
He was a psychopath. I mean, this guy had built after Carter did the treaty.
Oh, he built the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who's up and coming, moving.
Yeah. Oh, got to be 3-star. What the heck? That's pretty up and
It was
coming.
a part of his personality that how really smart people like to do something to. They'll shoplift. People who are multimillionaires, they'll shoplift because there's
Something in there.
something
That doesn't make any sense to me.
travel voucher.
I knew something had happened, and he retired a little early, but I never knew what it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, John came in, took my office, took my secretary, and I didn't have a job. So the Army said, okay, Bill, you're going to Fort Leavenworth. You're going to be in charge of the Army Space Study, 6-month TDY, at which point you're returning to Huntsville, Alabama. Oh. At this point, I'm really glad we didn't sell this place and move to Washington for 6 months.
So your wife was smarter than you.
My wife, as usual, was smarter than I. So anyway, I went out to Leavenworth in the middle of the winter. We did the space study, and then was reassigned here as the systems manager for air defense systems. So as a brigadier, I had all the colonels who were doing air defense systems working for me. Finally got back into air defense, guys. The wheel turned. Did that for probably about 6 months, and somebody invented the PEO system.
And you have some very good opinions about PEO.
Oh, some really good opinions about PEOs, yes. I never met a PEO I didn't love. Never met the concept that I didn't hate. But the concept is just wrong. The concept of PEOs is fundamentally flawed. But anyway, I became one of 4 PEOs here at Redstone.
Yes, in fact, there's a picture of you and who else, Mike, on that?
Caps, Drozdek, and Bill starts with an S.
The guy that was Hellfire.
Right, the guy I was trying to think of.
Oh, shit, I'm trying to think of it.
Anyway.
Bill, what's his name?
Schumacher.
Schumacher, Bill
Right,
Schumacher, good
right.
guy.
And there was
Good
a
guy.
big article, Redstone Rocket, and had the pictures of four of your mugs.
Yep.
and
Yeah, we were the
announcing the
brand new concept of PEOs here at Redstone Arsenal.
to streamline acquisition. Is that right?
Yeah, that was another acquisition improvement. And you see, it's fundamentally flawed. It's stupid because what it did was it disconnected the project manager from the commodity commander. Okay? It's like saying, if I just take this fish out of the water, look how free he'll be. Yes, he will.
I like that.
Okay? Make a note, Mike. Make a note of that. Okay? I mean, that's all it did was it took the fish out of the water. You stop and think about it. Who does the project manager look for his people? The commodity commander. Who does he look for his office space? The commodity commander. What does he look to the PEO for? Damn near nothing. Okay? You know, if you got to go to Washington, you'd rather take a 2-button with him than a 1-button. And to me, it serves no useful purpose. And I think I saw something here just a short while ago where we're adjusting it. Took us a long time to figure that one out.
Oh, yeah.
Long time to figure that one out. Gosh. Yes.
In the entire Army?
Yes. Yeah. PEOs were invented, and we had our 4 guys here, and there were other ones scattered around the rest of the Army. But we were the initial class of PEOs.
Did you initially think that was a good idea?
No, never did.
Good.
Never did.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you became PEO.
And Cons, the reason for that was I knew how to be a PM. Okay? Because I had spent almost 6 years as a PM, as a colonel PM, and then, as a deputy to a PM, another 6 months or so. And I knew how to be a PM. I was a good PM. And I understood very well that you don't want to take me out of my water. It was just that simple. No, I knew it at the initial. It was not a good thing.
Do you think Drolet liked it?
I don't know. That's a good question. You'll have to ask him.
I don't know. He might not talk to us. We'll see.
That's true.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know if he liked it or not.
Or any of the other initial class.
It's interesting that I guess that's something that we never talked about, or I never talked about.
Who was the commanding general at the time?
When we went under the PEO.
Under the
Reese?
PEOs?
That would have been Reese.
Is that Reese? Yeah.
Had to be Reese.
Had to be Reese.
No, Bubbles, right?
Well, he was only here like 6 months.
Okay, so it was Reese.
It was either Bubbles or Reese.
Wait a minute.
Because Jerry Max was gone.
Yeah. No, I think it was Berbulus.
That was a really interesting time
Yeah,
at Redstone.
because I came down, he was the CG when I came back as the systems manager of air defense.
He didn't stay very long. He was only CG
Yeah.
like 6
I honestly don't remember who was the CG at the
We
time.
can look it up.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to visit these former CGs in a second.
Okay.
I guess we'll go down the list, right?
Okay.
Yeah, well, we're going to get him retired.
Oh, yeah, I got to
I
retire.
have to retire.
I got to retire.
And find out what happened to Steve.
What did I do then?
We got to keep track of Steve.
Well, no, there's Steeler and then there's the other horse.
Prize. Well, Prize got
Or the
sold.
Enterprise.
Yeah,
Prize was sold?
Prize was sold. Only horse she ever sold. Prize was sold before we left Washington, so Prize did not come with us.
Sold.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, that was traumatic. That was absolutely traumatic.
Is that the only time she ever sold a horse?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, sir, so you became PEO and you stayed
Yeah.
there, did that for how long?
Did that for about a year, and then they reorganized the PEOs
4 to 2.
from 4 to 2, and I wound up with the air defense systems again.
So you were
And
headquartered out of what building when you were doing it?
it must have been 5250, wasn't it?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, 5250. And then what happened? I think then I retired.
Did you?
I think then I
Before
retired.
Gulf War, you were gone.
Yes, I was out before the Gulf War.
And where was Steeler?
Steeler, I do believe, had gone to his great reward in the sky at that point.
By the time you retired?
By the time I retired, yeah.
Okay, when you were working at Redstone, you had some different commanders that were in your food chain.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of them?
Well, starting there was Medeiros, who was at least an heroic figure, and always had an aura about him. Now, again, I'm a lieutenant at this point, and here's his 2-star general.
Did you ever see the infamous guards that Tate and some of them have talked about that were up on the pedestals outside his office?
No,
You missed something.
there were guards standing on pedestals.
MPs with dressed to the hilt, found a whole warehouse full
Never knew that.
of
Never knew
all
that.
the shiny helmets.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how many former's you told us a story. Tate, Mike Ford,
Donnie Mitchell.
Donnelly,
Well, they would certainly know. Yeah, they would know.
anyway.
So Medeiros, of course, was a seminal figure. There was August Schomburg, who was always sort of a conundrum for me, because he had his son as his aide, and that was
Learned something again today.
yeah. Well, I don't know if you ever watched kids television back in those days, but there was Augie Doggy and Augie Daddy. Okay.
I got it right down.
Hold on, I'm being interviewed here on tape, and I'm trying to retain my composure, Mike, and you're not helping. And unfortunately, he would go around. He wouldn't say the commanding general wants. He'd go around and say my father wants, and that was just poor form. That was odd. So that was
Did little Augie ever make it far in the Army?
not to my knowledge.
Really?
Not to my knowledge.
Not like Ziert, whose son retired as a 1-star.
Became a brigadier, right? Yeah. Now John Ziert, there's a class act. There was a class act. I first met him when he was the chief of staff as a colonel, and could not have greater regard for a man. Brilliant guy, knowledgeable guy, nice guy, gentleman. I guess he knew how to raise his voice. I was never around when he did that. But he was clearly one of the great ones.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because Klaus and I have worked on this several times. We've been trying, because we're trying to get this on camera, if you think so. They've named a lot of things out on the arsenal for different people, and the last iteration, and we sent a thing to the garrison commander now, Bob Devlin, saying they need to certainly consider naming something for Johnny Ziert.
I would support that, absolutely.
Okay.
But
Absolutely.
their attitude, no matter what documentation Mike gave them, which is documentation, which is the record, to them it's like,
It's ancient
Ziert.
history, Klaus.
it was Ziert.
It's ancient history.
Now, they remember Dave Harris, and I know you loved and respected
Yes,
Dave Harris like a
absolutely.
brother. But regardless of that, you look at General Ziert and what he did as an officer in the United States Army.
And that's interesting. If you put Dave up against Ziert,
If Dave was to put himself up against Ziert, he'd say Ziert first.
My record.
oh no, without question, Dave would do that. But that's not the question. The question is, if I'm doing it, man, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think they're both 12s.
Well, I
But
agree.
it's not clear to me. I would put Ziert ahead
No,
of Dave
I
in
know,
terms
but
of
I'm just saying,
contribution
I
to
understand.
the Army and the
I
installation.
know, I'm just saying
Okay,
that
it's
this
not
was
clear at
a
all.
general officer in the United States Army.
The recommendation when it came to me.
Oh,
was-
yeah,
The recommendation that came to me and that I wrote a thing and said that, and I followed up on what Dave told me.
hmm
Dave said, I may not be here,
yeah,
but when you need to do something for Johnny Zarrett. So when he died, I took it upstairs and was told to lay low because we're going through all that aviation growing pains.
yeah, who cares?
So we had to put that politically,
Yeah.
don't do anything.
Yeah.
That's right, because that was back in '97, and
In
General
2000 when he died, and Roderick said, can't do that right now. So with a clear understanding, Dave said when Zarrett dies, you need to name Building 5250 for him. That was Dave's admonition to me. So I wrote the thing up, the
Yep.
package, and then said, we certainly need to name something for Dave Harris on this post, something. And they said, okay, give us some alternatives. And so I went over and sat down with
No, you
Roderick.
just said Dave Harris. Did you mean Dave Harris or John
Dave
Ziert?
Harris.
You meant Dave Harris, okay.
I said, we need to name something for Dave Harris. And so we went over to Space and Rocket Center, talked to Caps and Broderick, and said, before I shoot myself in the foot and Link starts screaming at me again, so we came up with a couple of possibilities. We
So-
got Johnny Zarrett.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
yeah,
Ziert.
Class act.
but you were talking about General Ziert, class
Yeah.
act, and
Yeah, absolutely. See, I never knew Ellis.
Donnelly.
I didn't know Donnelly as a CG. He was a former Pershing PM, and I didn't know him in that role either. And I really didn't know him there.
Eifler.
Did not know Eifler as a CG. I guess I came into Rockmiller, Tate, Turnmeyer era.
Regano.
Was Regano a CG? Yeah, I guess he was. He was the roll-on PM as a brigadier when I interacted with him as the IG, and then I guess he went on to be the Maradcom. Somewhere along the line, I never did much business with Means, so I don't have much of a feeling for him. Rockmiller was a good guy. I used to love it when he'd get in trouble and he'd say, "Now, my friend, so this is not going to be good. Better sit up straight, pay attention." Tate, I never did a lot of business with. I was his IG, but we had almost no interaction.
He was a captain when you were here as a lieutenant, so there wasn't a lot of grade difference.
I didn't know him then.
Yeah.
I didn't know him then.
He came in
Yeah,
58 too.
didn't know him then. Turnmeyer, of course, I was his IG also, and did a fair amount of business with him. And to a large extent, he still thinks I'm his IG.
Well, we'll get into that off camera. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then General Moore.
Moore is the Iron Commander. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't, but
Dave Harris used to refer to him as the Iron Commander, which I thought was appropriate. Interesting guy. If you could stand the pain, the lessons were beautiful. He taught by, I'm not sure how he taught. Let me give you an example. He instituted a set of project manager reviews. These were 8-hour reviews where the PM would stand there and present his program to him and the entire staff. So 8 hours. You got a lunch break. Yeah. If you've never stood for 8 hours taking heavy fire, you need to try it sometime. It's really a lot of fun.
and you're doing this as the Pershing.
As a Pershing PM. Yeah, I was a full colonel. And we did the first one, and my God, he batted me around the room. Just batted me around the room. So we got finished with, now the whole staff is there, my brother PMs, it's the arsenal, or the command is there. And I mean, he just kicked the stuffing out of me. So he finally got up, walked out of the conference room, through the secretary's office, into his office. I walked through the conference room, through the secretary's room, into his office. He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, General, it's obvious from that performance in there that you don't want me as your PM, so I'm here to resign." He puts his arm around me and he gives me that Bob Moore smile that would melt an iceberg. He says, "No, Bill, you're doing a great job. You're one of my best project managers. Man, get back out there and keep going. This is great." And I've been confused in my life from time to time, and I walked out thinking, boy, I guess I got to start paying more attention when I'm giving briefings. I'm not paying attention. So 6 months later, whenever it was, we did another one. He kicked the stuffing out of me. Now I'm paying attention, okay? I'm watching what's going on there, and I know when I'm getting the fool kicked out of me. 8 hours later, he walks through the conference room, through the secretary's office, into his office, conference room, said, "What do you want?" I said, "Sir, this time I was paying attention. I really know you don't have any regard for me as a PM, therefore I'm resigning." Here comes the 1,000 kilowatt smile again. He said, "No, buddy, you're doing a great job. This is one of my best programs. And just get out there and keep going and all the rest of it." So I went back and I talked to my father, Clarence Tidwell. I said, "Clarence, what the hell is going on here? I mean, you saw what he did to me. You didn't see what happened in the office, but he gave me the love hug and the smile and told me how good I was. What's going on?" And he said, "Bill, he's teaching by," I think Clarence called it teaching by example. "And he's not beating you up. He's beating these other guys up so that they'll learn from what he's hollering at you about." It's a strange way to teach, Clarence. Strange way to teach. But that was the Iron Commander.
This is not like you're a captain giving a briefing to a general. You're a mature Army officer in charge of a multi-billion-dollar program, international.
Only DX priority program that the Missile Command happens to have.
Right.
It's not chopped liver.
Right.
He kicked the fool out of me, Klaus. I mean, he beat me like a dog. As a matter of fact, at this time, jelly beans were in vogue because of the president. And for the second one, Clarence and I got a big jar of jelly beans. And we put it on the table in front of him. And when I couldn't stand the pain anymore, I'd take the lid off and say, "Sir, have a jelly bean." Try to break the flow or something. He'd have a jelly bean. He'd go back to beating me again. But that was his style. He got me promoted to general officer, Klaus. Okay? If it weren't for him, I'd be a retired colonel. Okay? So, yeah.
But was it worth the kicking?
That one said yes. That one said probably, because it really is nice being a general. Okay, that's nice.
I bet you it doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't suck. And without Bob Moore, would I have made it? Hey, I might have, but I might not have.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. Oh, geez, smart is not the word for it. What used to annoy me about him is his brain had a clock speed of about 100. Okay, so he would process information at about 100 cycles per second or per millisecond or whatever. My clock ran at about 80. I was always behind the 8 ball with him. Give me some time to think. I can work it out. But what's the answer, Bill? Boom, 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 boom. What do I know? Jim Ambrose. I'm the Pershing PM. Bob Moore is the CG. Ambrose is the under. We shoot our first missile, our first Pershing, out of the Cape. 17 seconds, kaplooey.
Made national news.
It was
on the all-net network.
It was my 15 seconds of national TV. My parents lived in Florida at the time.
Oh, goody. So they got to see it.
They got to see it.
Oh, good.
So I called him afterward and talked to him, and my father said, "I saw you on TV." "Oh, okay." He said, you said that missile cost $2 million. Well, that was the unit production cost. That missile probably cost $300 million. But hey, I didn't want to say that on TV. So he said, you said that missile cost $2 million. I said, yeah, about $2 million. He said, are you responsible for that? I said, Dad, I'm the project manager. I'm responsible for everything. Are they going to make you pay for it? Yeah, I'll pay for it, but not with money. So Dad was really worried that I was going to have to write a $2 million check. Anyway.
So he's willing to help out.
No, he never said that.
Oh.
He never said that. He just wanted to know if I was going to pay for it. Anyway.
By the way, was that an interesting experience with all the national media down there? A lot of screens.
That was an interesting experience. You bet it, your bippy, that was an interesting experience.
Dave Harris was down there with you.
Dave was right at my side, and he always regretted that he let the media have me.
Really?
To his dying day, he always apologized for doing that. Would you do me a favor, Mike, and let the black dog in, please? She's barking to come in. She'll bark at you when she comes in, but pet her and she'll stop. But yeah, Dave, to his dying day, regretted. He almost every time we met, Bill, I'm sorry I let those guys get you. Hey, Dave, you do what you think is right. And in the scheme of things, it wasn't a big problem.
I remember I can even tell you what you were wearing. You were wearing your, it was the new, at the time, Class B's, which was that green shirt with a short sleeve, little boards. Yeah. And you're wearing your Garrison cap.
Okay. So anyway, we break the first bird. Hi, baby. We break the first bird, and at this point, we don't yet know why we broke it. And so the deal is, I want to move the second shot to White Sands. Well, it was scheduled for the Cape. That's a change in plan. Well, we got to bring that to the undersecretary and get his okay.
All right. By the way, just out of curiosity, what was the reason for doing it there versus White Sands?
The first shot. The most critical aspect we had was, could we reach the range? And therefore, we said, let's put our toughest test up front and see if the bird will fly the full distance. If it won't, we got the rest of the test program to sort it out. When it broke, I said, wait a minute. At this point, I don't know why it's broken, why it has broke, why it did break, whatever the English is, why it broke, and therefore I want to go to the sands where I can recover the thing. So we'll just switch over to our first sand shot. So I talked to General Moore about that, and he said, okay, fine, make up about a 2-3 page briefing. We'll take it to the under and get his okay. So I prepare the briefing, Moore approves it, we jump on a plane, we go to Washington.
He goes with you?
He goes with me, yeah, because we're a team, by God. That was one of his big things, that we can fight like cats and dogs down here, but when we go to Washington, we are a unit, we are a team, we are one. Okay.
Like Team Redstone.
Yeah, but Jim Lincoln invented Team Redstone, Bob Moore did. But anyway, it was we are a team. We'll fight all we want down here, but we go up there, we're one. So we wind up getting about 15 minutes on Ambrose's calendar between briefings where he can eat his lunch and we can do the briefing. Got 3 charts. I put the first chart up and say, Mr. Secretary, I'd like to move my next shot to White Sands. And the secretary says, geez, that's a dumb idea. And Moore says, you're right, Mr. Secretary, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard. We're a team. You said it was okay. I'm on the first chart, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Very, very wrong.
Something's very, very wrong here. And so we go through this where I keep saying, but I got to move it out to the sands. And Ambrose says, like hell you are. And Moore says, hit him again, Mr. Secretary. And this goes on for about 15, 20 minutes. And finally, Ambrose is given it one of these. We're starting to chew into his 15 minutes. He's got his next briefing coming up. And Moore finally, oh, by the way, now these two are just going on, telling each other what a bad idea it is. And I'm sitting up there saying, okay, here's how I'm quitting. Say, okay, guys, stop. I've enjoyed this all I can stand. I quit. You do what the hell ever you want with the program. I'm not going through this anymore. We had a deal. You broke it. I don't know what your problem is. It's the right thing to do. Screw it. I wash my hands. So I'm waiting to get a word in edgewise so I can quit. Ambrose is giving it one of these, and Moore finally says, "Look, Mr. Secretary, I see you're in a hurry. Look, here's what we'll do. Bill will prepare a report on blah, 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 blah for you, and we'll go ahead and move the shot out to the sands, okay? Okay." To this day, I don't know what the hell happened, and I've asked Moore. I don't know what happened. But this is what I'm talking about Moore's clock speed. And, you know, when I get outside, I said, "What happened?" He said, "Look, I could see from the very beginning that you two were on a different track. And what I had to do is I had to get him back on track. And the only way I could get him back on track was to disagree with you and agree with him and get him to where he wanted to be." But that's what I mean about clock speed. His brain worked so fast that he pulled my fat out of the fire. And I didn't know he was doing it. Thank God he did, because I really didn't want to quit, but I wasn't going to take that crap. But that's my point, that his clock speed was just so much faster than mine that it was an unfair fight anytime I got into a discussion with him. But that's the kind of guy he was. And that is as about a verbatim as a story as I can tell you, Klaus. Who did we have? Berbulus. Berbulus was a tough guy to work for. He carried a lot of baggage with him.
Hang on 1 second, your microphone's about to
Oh.
fall off. Don't move. It became unclipped when you got up to the sheet on your program.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't figure out what the microphone was doing when you started fading on the mic. I thought, what's going on?
You want to go back and repeat all of this?
Yeah, you're going to have to start
Okay,
from...
we'll start from, I was born at a very early age.
No,
Oh.
from, hang on, let me double check. Start with, you're going to Fordham.
Okay.
Before you go to Moore, how about Jerry Max Bunyard?
What's my image of Jerry Max Bunyard? Nice guy, helpful, very supportive. Basically let me run my own show. If I asked for help, he was willing to help. But basically he had confidence enough in me that he let me do my own thing, for which I was very thankful.
Is that a good thing? I mean, Moore gave you ulcers.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, almost made you resign in the secretary's office.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, I know you're not exaggerating.
Yeah.
And then you get a guy like Jerry Max, nice guy, smart guy, who let you.
Basically, if I needed help, he was there.
So
Totally different management.
Totally different management. So yeah, about as bipolar as you could get. I hadn't thought about that. Which is better? What do I know?
yeah.
What do I know? For instance, had Jerry Max been in that meeting with the under, I may well have retired a colonel, because I might have resigned. Okay? Would he see? Moore and Ambrose had a very, very unique relationship. I mean, you talk about two people that were simpatico. Those were they.
Really?
Yeah, they were soulmates, philosophically. Could Bunyard or any of the other CGs have pulled that out? I don't know. Don't know. Can't say.
You're going to tell us a little bit about Berbulus.
Funny guy, General Berbulus.
Funny?
No, unusual funny. He had some personal history which kind of colored his view of the world. He was extremely loyal to General Thompson, the AMC commander. Thompson and I never quite saw eye to eye. Thompson at one point in a meeting between Thompson, myself, and a lieutenant colonel who was sort of his aide, told me I wasn't listening and threw me out. When I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. Get out. Yes, sir. So I got on the phone and I said, General Berbulus, General Thompson may have just fired me. What happened? So I told him the story. And he said, he told me I wasn't listening to him, and he told me to get out. Burbulus said, did he use the words, you are fired? No, sir, he did not. He just told me to get out. Okay, then go back and act like nothing happened. Okay. I don't know how many times you've been thrown out by a 4-star, but it's kind of interesting to go back and act like nothing happened. I did, and sort of went all right. But Burbulus and Thompson were simpatico. I mean, they were very, very close to one another, and Burbulus was very, very loyal to Thompson. And I was never one of Thompson's guys. He didn't like me. I don't think I liked him. And so therefore, my relationship with General Burbulus to me was always tenuous at best, because I knew that the guy he admired didn't admire me. And so anyway, who else did we have in there?
Well, now we are going to Reese territory, right?
Because, yeah.
Tom Reese. Tom Reese was a good guy. Tom was another one. I guess I knew him best as the deputy, and we worked pretty closely together there. And Tom was very supportive. I had a problem from time to time. Where was I? guess over at the Log Center. Got into some things that I just didn't think were right, and they wanted me to do, and I didn't want to do. And we presented our case to General Reese, and he said, "Yeah, you're right, Bill," and got them off my case.
Now, you retired under Reese or Cianciolo?
No, Cianciolo was up in Washington when I retired.
So it would have been Reese.
So it would have been Reese?
Because
Who was after Reese?
Cianciolo.
No, I was Reese. No, Reese had already moved to the Pentagon as a 3-star while I was still on active duty.
No, that's
Reese didn't
Cianciolo.
get 3
I'm sorry. Cianciola had moved to
No,
the Pentagon.
Chin then.
Bruce Chin.
Bill Chen.
Bill Chin.
Bill Chin.
Bill
That's
Chin.
it.
Bruce Chin pitches,
No,
pitcher.
You're thinking of Bruce Lee.
That's
No.
what. Yeah,
Turkey. Bill Chen.
whatever.
I guess it was Bill Chen that I retired under.
Really?
Yeah, I retired under Bill Chen. Did I work for Gus? I must have worked for Gus
For a very short period.
for a very short period of time.
Because he wasn't there but about a year.
Yeah, he was a
13
short
months, right?
short time. Yeah, that's interesting. I have no recollection of my relationship with Gus. Here, I have clear recollections of my relationship with him up in Washington as the 3-star up there. But there's nothing in my memory bank with Gus and I down here. Isn't it?
Okay,
Here
but
it is.
you remember what year you retired?
88.
So
But if you retired in '88,
it would have
wouldn't
to be
it? It would have been.
Cianciolo.
Yeah, it would have been Bill Chin.
Chin came in '89.
Right.
Cianciolo was a 3-star in Washington while I was on active duty.
But it had to be past '88 because Reese, because we did an end of tour with Reese, and that had to be '88 or early '89.
That's true too.
I'm starting to get a headache, you guys. Ask me other questions.
Okay, tell
Don't
us
give me
about
this
Bill
facts and
McCorkle.
figures crap.
Tell us about
Bill McCorkle, fascinating. I predicted that McCorkle's going to die behind his desk and he'll be bronzed there.
Bronzed
At
at
his
so
desk.
He'll be just slumped over. And
No, he's not slumped over. He's working on something important.
and then they'll bronze him.
And they'll bronze him. Yeah. If he slumps over, they'll prop him up and bronze him.
Well, that was the question.
Yeah, sure. What else about Bill? Bill's brilliant. The kind of imagination that you want in that job. Okay? I mean, I don't know how his brain works, but he thinks of things. He's a scientist, okay? And he's inquisitive, and he thinks of stuff. I mean, he's the inventor of bat, and he's good at what he does.
Inventor of Fog.
I'm sorry, inventor of Fog M. No, he may be the inventor of bat. Fog M was what I was thinking about. Brilliant concept, absolutely brilliant concept.
Yeah, but you didn't have any dealings with John McDaniel, did
I knew John as a lieutenant, so, you know, in the early Medeiros years and all that. It's not, let's see, I had, I guess, one interaction with John. Um, I guess I was a lieutenant in the Nike project office, and was that captain? I might have been a captain. And we were getting, no, I was a lieutenant, and we were getting to pitch my program, which was the ASAS, the Army Satellite Intercept System. Okay, and I was getting ready to bring that up to Washington, and one of the briefees was Lead S. Log, 3-star general. And then John sat in on one of my dry runs, and the perception was in the dry run that I might have been a little nervous. Don't know how they could have seen that through my highly sophisticated veneer, but they concluded maybe I was a little nervous. And John assured me that that 3-star put on his pants just the same way he and I did, one leg at a time. Don't worry about it. Okay, thank you for the advice. So I passed the briefing. I got through the briefing okay. But that was basically, you know, I knew John and we said hi in the halls, but I was just a little bit below his pay grade for any serious involvement.
Gotcha. You mentioned some of these already, but what were some of the greatest challenges you faced in your career at Redstone?
Greatest challenges I faced in my career at Redstone. Good. I don't know the answer to that question. Let me talk about some of the challenges I faced. Getting through the personnel system was a noticeable challenge. That was tough to get through the personnel system. I had a lot of bad moments doing that. You know, I guess basically my experiences were more on the positive side, Mike, than on the negative side. Yeah, in hindsight, I'm looking back saying, okay, what, you know, who is a problem for me? Who is difficult for me? What annoyed me about Redstone Arsenal? And I've screwed around with that question now for 3 minutes, and I've come up with one example.
Well,
so I guess the answer is
else.
not a lot of problems.
Well, what accomplishments are you most proud of during your career?
List them in order.
Well, it's got to be the Pershing II thing, getting that thing deployed in the face of the adversaries that we had. Got to be the proudest accomplishment that overshadows everything else.
I need to ask you something about that.
Yeah.
When they had the ceremony, the INF signing, and they started crushing, or either the first Pershing or when they finished destroying the last Pershing. I mean, I'm not asking this to be flip or be an asshole or anything, but like, did you cry or did you?
No, didn't cry. From the inception, from my participation, the inception of my participation in the program, I was always challenged by people who would say, but why are you doing this? It's nothing more than a bargaining chip. And I grew up in Pershing with that, well, Pershing's a bargaining chip. And my philosophy was, I don't know if it's a bargaining chip or not, but if it is, we're going to get a damn good price for it. And we did. No, I didn't cry.
All right, well then, like, was tremendous sense of pride, or, I mean, I don't know, one of the.
You remember what I said about the General Officer Humility Program?
Yeah.
Let me give you the Pershing view of that. You know, there are 3 Pershings left in the world. One of them is in the Smithsonian.
Yes, we've seen.
At the end of that, whatever it was, there was a big gala held in the Smithsonian, and naturally my team and I were invited. And here's the Russian missile and the American missile standing side by side. And Clarence and I and I guess it was Don Hickman or Marty Koshar, the main Lockheed guy, were standing in front of the birds talking. you know, and reminiscing. And some guy that I didn't know, and clearly didn't know us, came over and said, "Would you guys mind moving out of the way? We got some important people we want to take their pictures in front of the missiles." Okay, we'd be happy to move out of the way. So we did. And we looked at one another and said, well, sic transit gloria, or whatever those words are. But it kind of put everything in perspective. I think these were the State Department weenies or something like that were taking great pride in their wonderful accomplishment. And it was a wonderful accomplishment. But, you know, the fact that they wouldn't have had a treaty without us, hell, they didn't know that, and whatever. So.
Is it your professional opinion that the Pershing II helped win the Cold War?
Without question. Without question.
So we'll go ahead and just repeat that.
Hold your place for a second. I'll be right back.
I'll pause it.
Yeah, well, okay, pop quiz for you guys. How many does it take to tango?
2.
Wrong. Can you see that?
1.
Takes 1 to tango. Ed Rowney, retired 3-star, also an ambassador to 5 different presidents. Arms control negotiator for 5 presidents, wrote the book. And you'll have to read the book to find out why it takes 1 to tango. Ed is an old friend, and I sat next to him in a meeting one day, and I said, "What's that book?" And he said, "That's my new book." And so I went out and bought a copy and sent it to him, and he inscribed it for me, 1993, to Bill Fiorentino. "With great admiration and respect for the fine work you did in developing and deploying the Pershing II missiles to Europe. Without the P-2, there would have been no INF treaty and perhaps no end to the Cold War. All best wishes, Ed Rowney." Ambassador. Does that answer your question?
Says it all.
Okay. So, yeah, there is no question in my mind that P-2 brought down the wall, brought down the Soviet Union, and led to the world as we know it today.
Okay, so Pershing is one of the
Wait
greatest.
a minute, I'm asking. You mentioned a couple of you mentioned Mr. Tidwell,
Yes.
but members of your team that, of course, well, tell us briefly about Clarence Tidwell.
Clarence Tidwell is probably one of the finest human beings I've ever met, and also the best project manager in the universe. What else you want to know?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
You pretty
Is that-
much hit it on that.
Yeah. You want me to tell you how I really feel now, or what?
No, no.
Okay.
Really not.
All right.
Mike, seriously, we got 20 minutes.
Okay.
Pershing, greatest, according to Mike's question, most proud of Pershing.
Right.
Any other secondary, tertiary?
While on the arsenal, you mean? I guess not really. The Pershing, as you may have noticed, outweighs so much else. I guess
We could literally, if you wanted to, we could bring back the camera one day and we could sit for 5 or 6 hours and just talk about your experience at the Pershing project.
Oh yes, we could do it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. But I guess my philosophy was, hey, I poured 110% of my being into everything I did, and so I'm proud of all of it.
What did your wife think during that period? You were obviously working unbelievable hours,
Yes.
unbelievable pressure.
Yeah.
You had political pressure from the White House to Secretary of Defense to everybody.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story, but basically she was cool about the whole thing, fortunately. She's a good Army wife, and she understood. She thought I was a workaholic, was stunned to find out that I'm not. Once I retired and didn't have to do that anymore. She said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, this is where I live." And so she was quite surprised at that. But she's pretty laid back. While we lived on the arsenal, and shortly, I guess I'd been to Pershing PM maybe about 6 months or so. And I was in the shower one morning, and I got out, and she said, "Oh, you got a phone call while you were in the shower." I said, "Oh, who was it?" "I don't know, some guy named Jim Ambrose." Oh my God. I said, "What did you say?" I said, "You were in the shower." "What did he say?" He said, "Well, I guess everybody's got to be clean. Call me back." Okay. "Mr. Secretary, I'm sorry, I was in the shower. Don't worry about it." but he placed his own phone calls.
Did he really?
Yeah, and she hadn't a clue who he was. And after I told him, or told her, she didn't care much anyway.
Really?
Yeah. But, yeah, so that, yeah, she thought I was an alcoholic, or excuse me, a workaholic, pardon me. Bite your tongue.
I'll have to edit that out.
Edit that out because I don't drink. But yeah, she thought I was a workaholic and was surprised to find out I wasn't. But thank God she tolerated a lot of the nonsense. Now, she did draw the line when I was going to Washington. Be my guest. I'm not going to do that.
How many barns were built at the time?
I think we just had the barn and the indoor at the time, yeah.
We'll probably wrap up a couple more questions. What do you think makes the relationship between the Army at Redstone and the Huntsville community so unique?
That's a good question, Mike. I think early on we realized that we were in it together. And I think the Germans, by the way, were a large part of that because, you know, the Germans didn't just go to work on the arsenal. They went to work on the arsenal, but they lived in town. And they wanted town to respond to their cultural needs. And I think they were the catalyst for the Army and the community realizing that we were in it together and we were going to succeed mutually or we were going to fail mutually. You know, we hang together or we hang separately. And I think that has stayed. And part of it, of course, has been the guys downtown, the Will Halseys, and that whole crew of just wonderful people downtown who intermeshed with the Dave Harrises and that wonderful crew. Yeah, I think we recognized a very, very common interest and that it was to our mutual benefit to cooperate rather than to fight one another.
What do you see as the future of this area?
I've got to believe it's just going to go and grow better and better. You know, we got the BRAC thing out there. Anything can happen. I will be stunned if the BRAC is anything but supportive of Redstone Arsenal. We've got the land, we've got the facilities, we've got the infrastructure. For all the reasons that the airplane command came down here, it would not surprise me at all if AMC headquarters comes down here. That would not shock me a bit. It would please me, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I think the growth prospects are excellent.
When you were thinking about retirement, was there any other place was this going to be home?
We had already built a house. And yeah, our plan was to...
Well, go look for horses other places.
Yeah, just stay right here. We were happy.
You did not have any thoughts about moving back to New York City?
Where? Bite your... You got to make better jokes than that, Klaus. I visited there once. It's not even a nice place to visit.
My excuse is that I'm from New Jersey, so I'm not...
Okay, you're not quite as bad.
No,
Not quite as bad.
I don't have anything else.
Sir, is there anything else you'd like to comment on?
No, I think what you guys are doing is, yes, there is. I think what you guys are doing is great. I think the recorded histories, the oral histories are very, very important. I guess I'd like to come back to where we started our off-the-record conversation, which is the, what is it, the lack of respect for the old-timers? That's very troublesome to me. That is very troublesome to me. I mean, we've got a lineage here of some unbelievably good people, and to say out of sight, out of mind is just not right. So you guys got to figure out how to do your jobs better so that the new boys up there that are running the place understand that, you know, their existence has been built on the back of people whose names they don't know and apparently don't respect. That's not right. That is not right.
Thanks so much for telling us it's our fault.
Well, that's my pleasure. Anything to help.
Do you have any interface with the old man out there at all?
No, none at all.
Do you know what his name is?
Of course I know what his name
I'm
is.
just asking, sir.
Yeah. Is this a pop quiz?
Yeah.
You thinking about General Pillsbury?
That's right.
That's the guy, yeah.
That's right. Okay, Mark, that's one.
Mark,
Yeah.
+1 for Bill. Okay.
Who is the deputy to the commanding general?
Don't know.
There you go.
Don't know.
Okay.
Now, see,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with
Yeah,
it,
don't
isn't
know.
there? Who's the chief of staff?
Don't know. I saw his name in the rocket, but
Bob English.
Bob English. Okay,
Good
don't.
guy.
Yeah, good guy.
Ordnance Corps.
Ordnance Corps.
And,
Okay.
and he
Yeah.
does believe in,
In the legacy.
he still thinks that people like you walk on water.
Yeah,
He
no.
looks at the Bill
Except he doesn't
Fiorentino.
know about the first thing you were
Yeah.
mentioning.
God bless Mr. English then. And
No, but I'm saying he does believe in the importance for younger officers to understand the lineage of
Well, when you turn the
Yeah.
camera off, we'll make an observation. Are you
okay.
done?
Well, I just want to ask if there's any other comments.
No, I think I'm officially done. Thank you.
Sir, officially, thank you so much for your
Very much.
time.
My
for the
pleasure.
Short period of time that you allowed
My
us to-
pleasure. I appreciate it.
One of the problems that we have